Hi, I'm Stacey Barr, the Performance Measure Specialist of staceybarr.com, and welcome to Lesson 8 in the 10 Secrets to KPI Success program. Lesson 8 is about how your KPIs are probably misleading you. There's a struggle that we have in performance measurement that a lot of people don't even realize is a struggle, and it's this incessant behavior every month or every reporting period to explain any up or down movement in our KPIs. Related to this problem also is where everyone's looking at the same KPI, looking at the same graph or the same visual presentation of it, but not agreeing on what's actually happening. They can't agree on whether performance is going up or going down or staying the same. Now, the root cause for this struggle is that we are not able to discern the signals in our KPIs from the noise. We treat every up and down variation, every difference, as something that's real. This is a symptom of very, very common situation where people are using statistical techniques without statistical thinking. A very typical way that we interpret our KPIs and performance measures is to compare this month to last month, or this month to the same month last year, or maybe this month to a target or a standard, or we compare the year to date to some kind of annual target. Now, the problem with doing this is we can often get different answers to the very same question: what is performance doing? This month, for example, might be better than last month, but it might be worse than the same month last year. But it might be better than target, even though the year to date is behind. So you can't get agreement on what the KPI is doing, and if you can't get agreement on what the KPI is doing, you don't know whether you should be taking action or not. There's an interesting experiment that I do in my workshops and webinars around this very topic, and I show people a range of these typical analyses, and I ask them the question: is performance getting better, getting worse, or staying the same? Now, everyone will be looking at exactly the same data, exactly the same analysis, and I will get responses across the board. Some will say it's getting better, some will say it's getting worse, some will say it's staying the same, and interestingly enough, some will say, I have no idea. Now, that's not the kind of response you want when you're looking at your KPIs. That's madness. That's actually quite scary and risky, because if we can't interpret our KPIs accurately, correctly, and consistently, we're going to be wasting a whole lot of effort in fixing things that ain't broke, and we're going to be missing a whole lot of opportunity to pick up problems early before they turn into very costly big problems. We need a single correct set of rules for interpreting our KPIs, and we shouldn't make them up. They're not something that we can just pluck out of thin air, even if we are consistent about them. We need to apply statistical thinking. Now, what statistical thinking means is that we have to accept that everything varies naturally. There'll be a certain amount of routine variation in absolutely anything that we measure. That routine variation is a pattern of consistent variation through time. What we want to manage is not the up and down routine variation. We want to manage the abnormal variation, where the pattern of variation suddenly starts changing. That is a signal. And we need specific statistical techniques to do this. You don't have to worry about not being a numbers person, or, oh, I didn't go to university and study statistics. You don't need any of that. In the pump workshops I run, I teach a type of chart that I call a SMART chart. And everybody in the workshops always understands it. They find it very easy to create it, and their world is rocked by just how powerfully it highlights true signals separate from the noise in our KPIs. So here's secret number 8 for KPI success. We have to learn how to discern signals from the normal routine variation or noise that is present in every single KPI. We have to stop making point-to-point comparisons. We've got to stop comparing this month to last month, for example, or this month to a target. Now, your activity for this lesson is to take a KPI, preferably one that you've been measuring for a while, and put its values into a time series chart. You want probably about 20 values, or maybe if it's something you've been measuring for a while, you could have 2 years worth of monthly values in this chart. And then just take a look at the chart. How would you describe the normal amount of routine variation that's in that KPI? Can you see any deviations away from that routine variation pattern that would suggest a signal? How would you interpret your KPI when you have the context of that historical data and an understanding that routine variation is absolutely normal and okay, and what you need to look at is the patterns that show a deviation from that? Now, when we get together for our next lesson, lesson number 10, our focus is going to be on how KPIs affect our decision making and how we should be using them to improve performance. It's where the KPI rubber hits the road.